front of the tractor now, and this is a timing cover and timing case and all that, and I've rattled the nut loose on the front crank pulley, and that just comes out. Now what we look at here is what that seal surface is like. This has got a few little marks on it, as in where the seal's been running, but there are no sharp marks, no pits, nothing like that. So the new seal will seal on there, no worries. Now if you were just doing the crank seal, the seal can come out from here. And there you go. And if you had to put a new one in, well, you just put a big socket or a bit of plate or something over there and tap, 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 tap it in, and you can probably try and sit it in just a little bit deeper, and you can see where the outer lip runs here. I'm trying to get it all in the picture for you. Outer lip here, inner lip there. So if that seal sat down there, perhaps you could put it in like a couple of millimetres deeper and just pick up a new piece of surface there. So up to you entirely. No harm can be done by doing it. There's nothing up in here that it can hit, so that's easy enough to do. Now we just got to, there's a heap of bolts on these timing covers. I've just got to cut off oil pot down the bottom here, and everything just gets thrown in there. That's where we took the plate off before for the injection pump, so we could pull the injection pump off. Probably not very exciting watching me undo bolts, but anyway. Normally we'd have the engine on a stand, but it just lends itself to filming. Having the front end, the front axle and all out of the tractor, and sitting up here like that, it seems to work, so we'll go with that for the moment, till we know better. Oh, there's another little one down in here on the bottom of the crankcase breather. That's a little 7/16 spanner one, which is a quarter screw. And then there's 1/2 inch up here further. What have I done with my socket? Ain't nothing the left-hander shifter can't do. There's a spacer there to hold the pipe out away from where it is. Now here's the 1/2 inch one. It was still on the ratchet from the injection pump. Got a spring washer and a nut. I like to put them back on, just so you know what went with what. Now the engine is sitting at the same place it was when we pulled the injection pump off, so it's around 20 degrees before top dead centre. So hopefully we can turn the crank over and show you where all the timing marks are. Now this bolt here, it goes right through. It's a 9/16. All the 1/2 inch, no, there's a little 7/16 one here yet. You can hear the shed creaking a little bit as the sun comes out. It's fairly early. It's about 7:30 in the morning at the moment. And as the sun comes out, the shed heats up and creaks and groans and cracks. Sort of like me, really. If I hop out of bed and get going for the day, there's a few creaks and groans and cracks. Sometimes pops and farts. But anyway, we won't talk about that. Now on the back of the timing cover where these 9/16 or 3/8 bolts go that a 9/16 spanner fits onto, the plate, and if this tractor had power steering, that's where the power steering pump would bolt on. Between you and me and the gate post, I've just bought another 135 and it has power steering and that on it, so we're going to run through that too. I like buying the old tractors and doing them up. I don't think you'd ever get rich doing it, that's for sure. My missus reckons we're going to be worth a fortune one day, all the treasures I bring home. Okay, so that's those out. Those out, that doesn't need to come out. That's where the water pump was bolted on. I keep having the wrong socket. Whatever I want to do, I've got the wrong socket on. I have separate pots, like the pot I'm dropping all the bolts into. It'll have the timing cover and a bit of timing stuff in it from the timing gears and nothing else. And I find it easy just to keep things in a lot of small pots rather than dropping it all in a large drum. Now, that should come off, just like that, apparently. That's a thrust washer, and it's a slinger. And as the oil runs around in here and wants to come out and come out past the oil seal, this slinger grabs the oil, it'll come in through the back here and it'll fling it out and about and off to other areas. So hopefully it doesn't come out of here. So we know this is the injection pump gear that we unbolted before. This is the camshaft gear, this is an idler gear, and this is the crank gear here. Now, if you remember I said before we were 20 degrees before top dead centre. Some of these gears were hunting gears, and hunting gears means that they didn't line up every single time with the dots, which is just, yeah, it sounds silly, but that's how it goes. But once we turn the crank here, and you'll see when I said before in the video about pulling the timing gear off, or the injection pump off, that this can't turn. It doesn't matter how much you wiggle that gear in here, you cannot turn it. You can drop it down and try and turn it, you can pull it out as far as you can and try and turn it. You just can't do it. It just won't do it for you. So what we need to do now is just turn the engine by hand until the piston is at top dead centre, and at that stage we we'll have a look here. I'll see if I can bring you in a bit closer. I don't think we need the torch. Anyway, the key is up. There's a little mark on the key here, on the gear, and it's on this tooth here. There's a mark on the camshaft that's coming down to the centre here, and there's a mark on the injection pump gear. Now, just to show you, I'll undo this tab here. There's no other marks lining up anywhere on this gear. And it's just an idler gear. That's all it is. This centre one. And it just sits on got a little bit of wear there. And you'll see there's a timing mark here and a timing mark here. And at this stage, they don't mean anything to us. So I'll undo this gear. 13/16 spanner undoes that gear. Come on, there we go. Now this washer here, that washer holds that gear on, so we look for a bit of wear there. There's none there, none worth worrying about. So yes, with a hunting gear, this gear may not line up every time, but if we're checking it all out, we have a look for the timing marks. Now we have one there. I'll see if I can highlight them for you. That's the camshaft. There's one there. So that's on the low of the tooth. There's one here. On the injection pump gear, there's one here, and that's on the bottom of the tooth in the V. And on this gear here, I'll try and highlight them. There's one there. In the V. There's one there, which is on the gear itself, and there's one there which is on the gear itself. So we have one on the main tooth there and one on the V here, on the bottom of the tooth. So by the time we line this up, and we line this one up, and we line, there we go, and we line that one up. You can see when we pulled it apart, it was top dead centre, it was firing on number one, the crank was up, the cam mark was down, so we knew we were firing on number one, top dead centre, and the injection pump gear was all facing in, but this gear wasn't lining up. So being a hunting gear, that's how it works. But once you line it up, on this gear also, this one is on a gear tooth, this one is on a gear tooth, yet this one mark here is on the valley between the gears, so that's easy to sort out from there. So that's your timing train, your camshaft. Well, we can replace gears and camshafts and all that sort of stuff. You'll see this little shiny spot there, if I keep my dirty fingers off it, and you'll see this rubbing block there. You can see it's got a little hump there. So, and what that does, that just holds the camshaft back to stop it floating. That gear now I've got the fuel lift pump off and the head and all that sort of thing off. That gear, or that camshaft, will probably just come forward. And there it is there, in all its oily glory. Now we have a bearing surface down here, a bearing surface here, and a bearing surface down this end here. Then down this end here, up in the end there, that's your tacho cable drive. And there's a seal runs on here at the back of the block, and there's a little 3-bolt housing sits on there, and the drive shaft, the cable for your tacho actually runs off the back of your cam. So while we've got the cam in our hand, we may as well have a quick look at it. You can see a little bit of wear through here. The lobes are still quite pointy, as in not worn. Pardon me. Actually, no, that's buggered. Can you see the corner? There's not on that lobe. And this little surface here, pardon me, that's eccentric to run your fuel lift pump. So we've taken the cam out. The main idler gear, or the injection pump drive gear, can come out and go in the pot. The cam's off, it can go in the pot. The gear looks good. And the idler gear can go in the pot. Now the crank gear, we can leave that on, there's no need to pull that off just yet. We could undo all these bolts here, but there's bolts coming in from the sump underneath as well to take this off. And I find that if you have to take this backing plate off, you can never get it to seal properly around the bottom here, so you may as well take the sump off and do the job properly. So that's it, that's the end of the little video on removing the timing gears, and we'll show putting it all back together when the time comes. It's just piece by piece documenting how we're going. So hopefully you're following along, and hopefully you're getting something enjoyable, or more to the point, useful out of it. I've taken the sump off the engine, and that's just a matter of running around the bolts. There's some around the back of the bell housing. There's 2 sneaky ones up under the back, and it actually was sitting under the timing cover here, or your timing cover backing plate. This little fella down here that you just can't quite see, that's your oil pump. You can see the sump on the ground just over there. So I didn't think you needed to see that. If you just had to do your timing gear here, you could probably drop the sump off and drop this plate off. Now, I think this plate's got a little crack in through here. I can just see, I think I can see what's a hairline crack there. Now, these bolts also, you've got a couple of normal size ones down the bottom here, and they're quite long. And the main reason for showing you this is all these bolts through here, they're all really short heads. Well, maybe I'll show you a comparison. So that's the normal head of a bolt, and this is the ones that go in behind your timing gears. If I take it over there, you might be able to see it better. So they're a couple of millimetres shorter, and they have This one has a little shim washer and a shake-proof washer. Otherwise you just put the shake-proof washers back. But yeah, they're just short, so I usually give them a pot of their own, those bolts, just to not get them mixed up with anything else. But yeah, sometimes when I've had fellas working for me and you do the timing cover, then it's all bolted up, and next thing, yeah, you've got bolts with short heads around the outside here and things like that. So I could probably be doing this with a nut gun and air ratchet and speed it up a bit. Doesn't speed it up an awful lot, but for these small bolts, a big bulky nut gun, I don't know, I just prefer to do it like this. Doesn't take that long really. The sump was quite loose on this tractor. Yeah, the bolts, none of them are tight, really. I'm a bit worried about this crack here. We may have to V that out and epoxy it or replace the housing or something like that, but I can't remember if it was leaking. It had that much oil and rubbish all over it that I can't really remember. Pardon me, that should be it. Okay. Pardon my noggin. Oh look, bloody dickhead. It's hard to get good help. I usually sit out the front there where the camera is, and I'm working from the side. Just making excuses really, for not paying attention. Feels better already. Definitely nothing else, I don't think. Just a little tap. That's the back of the timing cover. There's a gasket there, of course, where your injection pump bolts on. That's where the plate for your power steering bolts on if you don't have the power steering. And this little housing here, that's got a seal in it that seals onto the sump. So there you go, another part done. I think what we'll do next, I've undone most of the bolts around the bell housing here, and I think to show you underneath and the oil pump and undoing the pistons and all that, I may just swing the engine out and sit it up on a pallet if I can. I've got the engine stand over the back. I've got a TE20 petrol engine on that at the moment, so we might just roll this one around a pallet. We'll see how we go. Actually, while we're on this part here, so I don't damage the oil pump and that, there's a gland nut up in here, and that's where the oil supply from the oil pump comes up and goes to the filter housing. I'll undo that. Because yeah, rolling engines around and that, sometimes you get things squashed and bent a little bit, so I'll try and take this off. That's the nut, you can see that just down there. You can only just see that from the monitor. Now we've got to flick this gear off. Pardon me. Now this drive gear, there's just an E-clip on that. And he comes off. And you always check the bush inside there. So with him off, that gives us access to the 3 bolts now that hold the oil pump on. Once again, these bolts have short heads. This engine had good oil pressure when it was low and poor oil pressure when it was hot. That's probably more of an indication of a worn bottom end than it is a worn oil pump. But we'll pop the pump apart later and have a look. If I remember rightly, there's a little support underneath. I'll have a lay down for a minute. If you hear me snoring, I shouldn't be down here long. But yeah, it's under the number 2 main bearing cap. There's a little 7/16 spanner goes on it. And it's a pickup support bracket. Sometimes it's easy just to go and get the right sort of spanner. That's a tight little screw. You've got to fight me all the way, this little bloke. Okay, that's got that. I haven't kicked you out of the way or anything, have I? There you go. That's the oil pump assembly. That's the relief valve. That's the plate at the back where you can have a look at the G-rotor assembly. And this is your suction screen. So at least with that off now, if I'm rolling the engine round a bit, you can see the front main bearing cap here. And if I'm rolling the engine round a bit, I've got no chance of damaging that.